What a beautiful couple together.
Thank you.
I really want to say this.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We both love to travel. We love meeting new people. So this has been such a great adventure together.
We also find former relatives who have lived in China, big in Nanjing. We went to a house where your
Great aunt
lived in Nanjing, and that brought back a lot of memories.
21,
Wow.
almost 100 years ago. She was a teacher. She had gone to law school and didn't like it, so she took a little break and came to China to teach math and English to young Chinese women.
That
in
must be a
Nanjing.
very independent woman.
She was.
She was.
So is Mel.
You took the words out of my mouth. Mel's very independent, but very loving, very caring. Wonderful combination.
Thank you.
And both of you are here at a very critical time, I have to say, Mr. Ambassador, in terms of China-U.S. relations.
I always knew that the relationship was extremely important, U.S.-China. But since I've been here 3 years, it's even more obvious to me how important it really is.
Will the next few years be bumpy?
There are always little bumps in any relationship.
Well, there's a difference of degree, though.
Yes, there are. I think, by and large, it's going to be good, because it has to be good. If it gets too bumpy, then it's destabilizing. That's bad for each country. It's bad for business. It's just not a good thing. And I think leaders in both countries realize that. Companies in both countries realize that. And I think, by and large, things will work out pretty well. There'll be a few little bumps as we work out a couple of items where we need to find some more agreement. But I'm positive.
But there has to be some anchor over there for this specific relationship. Trade used to be the one, but it seems that it is also becoming challenging, given some rhetorics.
Yeah, well, that's right, no question. Donald Trump won with a change election. That is, he wanted change, and the people who supported him and put him in the presidency want change. And what's the change they want? They want more assurance that their jobs are going to be stable, they're going to keep their jobs. They're a little uncertain about all the changes in the world, and China's such a big, growing country that causes a little angst, a little concern. What's that all about? And I think primarily any potential differences are going to be around trade and around the commercial relationship between each other. And it's important, I think, for China to understand that and recognize that, to find ways to find solutions.
But people are worried at this point about too long a learning curve of an administration at the big change time for the two countries, Mr. Ambassador.
Yeah, well, I don't know if the learning curve is going to be too long. It is true that Donald Trump has not had prior political experience, prior public service experience. All that's very true. And frankly, has a bit to learn about China. Don't forget, the two countries' bureaucracies are still going to be there, still work well together. State Department and all the various ministries and the State Council here in China. I understand some of the uncertainty, but once President Trump takes office after the 20th of January, I think things are going to be a little more clear and a bit more reassuring than we might think at this time.
But things become a little bit confusing as to who to listen to. Will we listen to the president, or shall we listen to the voices of the bureaucrats? What is the real voice of the country?
That's going to become clear. We'll get there. And I don't worry about that. I don't.
You two are going to be private citizens after this ambassadorial trip to China. But I just wonder, as private citizens, what are your wishes for your country?
You know, one thing I think that we'll be doing and that we really want to do is to share with every American who will listen to us what we've learned over here and how important this relationship is. We tell everybody, you should visit China and you should get to know the people. So if we can improve the relationship just by encouraging Americans to come here, students to come here, that would be a very strong wish of mine.
Well, one thing I'm going to say is just how much we like the Chinese people. Chinese people are so energetic.
Just like the two of you.
and like the United States, it's really, you should get over there and you'll be surprised maybe just how wonderful the Chinese people are. Mm-hmm. I will encourage that.
What if occasions happen when people are talking about China in a way that you don't really recognize as the real China?
Well,
that would put you in a very difficult situation, wouldn't it?
no, not really. No.
Used to that.
I was going to
On
say,
the Capitol Hill already.
there's some truth in what you just said. Namely, I like meeting people who often have different points of view. And most people who have different points of view have those views in good faith. And so
We hope.
And most. So I like talking to people who might have an adverse view. China, they'll start to explain and ask questions and just calmly and it takes a little while sometimes, but just sit down and talk to people and ask questions and listen to them, listen to their concerns. And I'm quite confident, more often than not, they'll begin to understand, oh, really, I didn't quite understand it that way. Oh, that's really interesting. I found that tends to work.
Are you going to debate with people once you don't feel that their understanding about China is very different from what you know, the realities in China?
Am I going to debate?
Yeah?
Well, my goal is to be effective. My goal...
I love that word.
My goal is to effectively help both countries understand each other. When President Obama called me up, offered the job, I thought, great. I mean, I accepted this thing in a nanosecond because I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to represent the United States in China. In addition, I wanted to help build bridges between U.S. and China. And basically it's the same thing. And so when I'm talking to people at home, some people like China, great, we'll talk about China. Some people may have questions, we'll talk about the questions. But my goal is to be as effective as possible. I tend to think that argument is not the most effective way to be effective.
The rhetorics are not the most effective
That's right.
at all.
The louder it is, the more people got to tune it out. You got to just quietly listen and talk.
And both of you, as a couple, and Mr. Ambassador as an ambassador, are well known in this town for being pragmatic, to work on things that can be done, and therefore make a real impact. Many say this is the smartest couple in the diplomatic community here in Beijing.
Well, we may be the smartest couple, and that's because Mel's so smart. She raises the average.
Don't you like him? Don't you
I
love
love
him?
him.
She raises the average up pretty high.
We both have a very pragmatic approach that it's about getting things done and not necessarily partisan politics, not necessarily this opinion's right or this opinion's wrong. How do we achieve the goal and do it successfully?
If there is a way, what is the thing that you want to do the most? And what is the thing that you think, both of you, should be urgently need to figure it out between China and the United States?
Well, one is to understand and respect China. China is a different country. It has a deep, rich cultural history. It's one-party rule. It's a different country.
We don't have this, some people say, the patience that you have just mentioned. We don't want to do all of these understanding. We got trade problems. We got Taiwan problems. We got South China Sea problems. We got China threatening the United States. All of these are our problems. We don't have the time to understand and go over there 3 years and try to figure out what the country is. We just want to handle the issue right now on the table.
I don't think you have to be here 3 years to understand it. I think that if anybody just stops and thinks a little bit, that gee, maybe there is something to that. Maybe China is a little bit different. Maybe that partly explains why China has its position and the United States has its. But irrespective of that, we still can agree on a lot of areas and matters, and even on trade. It's even though each country is much different, we still can agree.
There have been a lot of talk about whether the bottom lines are being threatened about the relations between the two countries. For example, about Taiwan, about people-to-people exchanges, this and that.
Yeah.
So do you think we can still have the capability of holding on to our bottom lines with which we establish this relationship together?
Well, I think so. Let's take Taiwan. Taiwan, we have a one China policy. That is our policy. I think the United States should maintain that policy, not try to gauge in nuances or changes and whatnot. And that is something that we should put aside. Okay, Americans, we'll stand by our Taiwan policy. And add to that, we just take certain core interests each country has. Let's understand and respect them. Then we move forward.
And what about South China Sea, Asia Pacific security?
We'll work it out. I'm very, very confident they'll work it out. I'm very bullish on the relationship. Now, it's going to take work. It's going to take a little effort. But I'm quite confident it'll work out because it has to. because it has to. Both sides realize, hey, we can't rock the boat too much here. We need each other. And because of that realization, that recognition, I'm quite confident that all these issues that are in the press are going to kind of be background noise. But the real relationship at the core is going to be economic and working with each other. UN, for example, we work so close in the UN. Climate change, we work so close with on climate change. Global health, there's a whole long list of areas where we're working well together, and we're going to work even closer together.
People really cherish what we have achieved. We hope it will be the same thing for the future.
Well, thank you, and also I've learned that since I've been here. I've known it anyway, but it's even more important. That's the value of personal relationships.
That's right.
It's just so important, and I hope that President Xi and President Trump spend a lot of time, personal time together, get to know each other, because their personalities are different, and they come from different backgrounds. It's very important, I think, for the two of them to get to know each other better. And I'm also impressed that President Xi is going to Davos, and at Davos he's going to talk about China's global responsibilities. I think it's very smart to do that.
And before we go, some words to share with your friends here in China?
We will cherish, most of all, the friends and the relationships that we have developed here. And I know in my heart we will be back, hopefully many times. So it's not saying goodbye, it's just saying 再见.
再见, which is in Chinese meaning see you again.
See you again. We're going to be very engaged when we go home in our new chapter 3. Not quite sure what it is. But whatever it is, it's going to include a big, healthy dose of China.
Yes.
We're going to spend a lot of time working on China's issues, and we're going to be in China somewhat frequently. I can't tell you today how and when, but it's going to happen.
We are looking forward to your coming back again. Let's have 饺子 then.
Yes.
More jiazi.
The chicken filling.
Yes. Thank
There
you
go.
so
Thank
much.
You so
Thank you.
much.